Hey guys, what's up? I'm here to slay. It's Kashmir Gets Voted Out, and today we're going to be doing something a little bit different than usual, and by that I basically just mean I won't be screen recording a tier list or a game the whole time, and put in slightly more editing work than usual, so since my last video went kind of viral, just know that this is the high quality content that you are being served for the rest of the time that you watch my videos. But thankfully, since I've gained a ton of subs from the Take the Crown video, I was able to get a pretty good amount of votes in my community post poll. I got pretty close to the amount of subscribers I have now, and in that poll I asked for which video idea would be the most interesting to watch, and out of 5 options, unpopular opinions got almost half of the votes, which is pretty big out of 5 options. So unpopular opinions, it's not something I've ever seen someone do a YouTube video before. I know it was kind of a trend on the Reddit, back when it first became a trend on social media in general, but just a disclaimer, you know, it's okay if you disagree with these opinions. I'm not hating on you or anything. Obviously, it's supposed to be unpopular and generate discussion, so feel free to disagree, agree, or critique in the comment section below, and remember to not start any flame wars, because I don't want any of that nonsense for my channel. Alright, now my first unpopular opinion is one where I really wanted to start with a bang and get people mad right away. So my first one is about a Pacateo Island character, and it is about Sugar, who in my opinion is the best Pacateo character and a good character in her own right. The bandwagon extreme hate for this character is something I never understood or would have expected if I watched this season and didn't know anything about what the fandom thinks, especially the Reddit. People hate this character so much. She's always voted as one of the least liked or most hated from Pacateo Island, even though this already a season that's full of unpopular characters. And I understand why some people could see her as obnoxious, but I personally think she's hilarious, and actually appreciate how she's one of the only characters from that season that feels like they're using their brain for the actual game, despite ironically being a dumbass. But when she tries to break up Dave and Sky's potential relationship, and when she tries to get Ella eliminated, although that was more of a personal grudge. But there were a lot of obnoxious type of comedy characters in Total Drama, arguably Lindsay, Z, or Owen, but Sugar specifically gets a ton of hate for her brand of humor for some reason, even though she's pretty similar to a lot of other fan favorite characters, or at the least ones that aren't hated that much. I think a lot of people have a misconception that she only utilizes gross out humor, but she really doesn't. She basically only does that in 1 or 2 episodes maybe. Most of her jokes have to do with some form of her being clueless or dumb due to her low-class pageant life, while plenty of other characters also has this exact own brand of humor, just with being a dumb blonde or stoner or whatever, even though I love Z and Lindsay too, but and also her random cruelty to certain characters like Ella is also part of her humor, which I understand why some people wouldn't like that, but for me it's just so cartoony and ridiculous that it gets a chuckle out of me. Especially the one scene where Ella says her heart is filled with sorrow and Sugar just cackles. She's like, oh, I'm sorry, I was laughing about something else. And a reason why I feel like she gets so much hate is I feel like it's quite common for people to only have watched the season once and never again. And so I feel like if people watch it nowadays, they would give her more of a chance and be more open-minded, and the bandwagon hate might stop, because I honestly feel like this character shouldn't be as unpopular as she is. People say she's really obnoxious, but I think it's kind of unfair, because she's a very average Total Drama character in terms of personality and comedy. The only characters I can think of that come close to her levels of hate are Dave, Stacy, and Amy, which are a lot more understandable to me. So it's just really unfair that people wrote her off. The only criticisms I hear is that she's gross or maybe not a super threatening antagonist, but I think she works really well in the role of comedic antagonist for Pakistan Island. My next unpopular opinion is about the queen of Total Drama, Heather. Now, this is going to be a pretty quick one, but basically it's that Heather is the most consistently funny character in the show to me. There are other characters who have extreme big laugh moments, but she's just so consistent throughout every season, and I think it's partially because of her amazing voice actors. I don't know what her name is off the top of my head, but she brings this character to life, and even casual dialogue from Heather just gets me rolling, and she's really especially funny in action in World Tour, especially that 1 or 2 episode arc in action where she is trying to steal Courtney's hair and is obsessed about being bald. You can't tell me that wasn't ahead of its time. Heather is so funny. Alright guys, next unpopular opinion. I'm sat back down. I don't actually record all of these parts at the same time because I cannot sit down to record one video for some reason. But I'm pissed right now because I got beat by someone on Pokemon Showdown, but we're going anyways. So, next opinion is that Millie's plotline, character, and character arc in the reboot was actually excellent for Total Drama standards. She's easily the most developed from the reboot, and I almost feel like I'm going to be attacked if I say this, but off the top of my head, the only other one-season story arc I could think of that was as well-developed and great as Millie's is Heather's in World Tour. And when it comes to my liking for Millie's arc, her dilemma is something that people, especially nowadays, can learn from. and relate to. There's little nuggets that she drops during the season that point to her being bullied and outcasted in school. And so as a result, she adopted this kind of persona to shield herself from other people, and this is something people do all of the time, like, especially young people around my age. I'm 19, by the way, but Millie's an interesting character because we get to witness her do something wrong or considered morally incorrect and not be a villain while still being called out for her behavior, which means she's a morally ambiguous character, which I'm a sucker for, because they're so complex and realistic in an interesting way. But where was I? And because of this, Millie feels like an extremely realistic character with a positive storyline of overcoming part of her past trauma, and it's just great. I feel like some of her hate is pretty unjustified, especially people who call her boring but then turn around and praise the Gen 1 cast for being, like, realistic and, like, that's what they praise them for. Like, I'm not saying everybody who doesn't like her is like that, but Millie's storyline is basically an updated Gen Z-ified version, you could say, of Gwen's minor arc from Island. And, okay, here's a hot take I have about the fandom. Millie is not a boring character, she's just actually a realistic character with a good arc, and that's not good enough for the fandom because she's not some wacky gimmick character that makes you laugh like Lauren or Z. And obviously I love some of those characters too, but I feel like also it's kind of hypocritical because the fandom is like the bad thing about Pacateo is that it's the cast is too weird or wacky, but then characters like Scary Girl or Z are also popular when they're like would fit really well in that cast, so it's kind of like what. But anyways, actually back to Millie. Her storyline was pretty well paced and realized. She's not a perfect character with a perfect storyline by any means. There's definitely portions of episode 7 to 9 where her story stalls, and I do wish they leaned harder into being a hater, since I feel like they sort of chickened out of that because they didn't want to make her too unlikable. But overall, Millie's character speaks to something real, which is that people develop false egos and senses of security to try and protect themselves from others, or to heal from the trauma, and it negatively affects them and all of those around them because it just pushes them away. And I know a lot of teens and young adults have developed this as a coping mechanism, and being emo or having a negative social mindset is very common, and believe me, I would know because I have some of those tendencies as well. But truthfully, you can't love other people if you don't love yourself, and it goes the other way too. You can't love yourself if you do love other people, at least that's my opinion. And this is something that's especially hard for people with trauma to hear because they have a sort of defeatist mindset about everything. But Millie embodies this character really well to a T, and I'm actually really surprised that they did this in a kids show and it's portrayed as a redeemable character who can fix themselves and it's not the bad guy of the story. I just think it's a really good message and it's refreshing to see. And personally, the more I think about it, the more I actually think I wouldn't mind if she stayed for a little bit longer in season 2 to flesh out more of these ideas, because although she obtained her quote-unquote happy ending, I feel like there's still a lot more to show there in the field of trauma and mental health, and maybe they could save that for potential season 3. I think that'd be a good idea. But yeah, Millie's a great character. She has one of the only storylines in total drama that feels like it was actually properly realized and complete and decently well paced. So like, it felt purposeful and well. It was a great idea. And I know Millie gets a lot of slander, but I think as time goes on. Alright, so for this next one, I'm about to turn into QG for a second, but my next one is that people take the songs from World Tour a bit too seriously, and people talk about these songs like they're reviewing genuine music sometimes, and it's just funny to me. Like, obviously you can engage with the songs in any way you want, but like, in general, I feel like most of the World Tour songs are not good songs. The vocals are average at best, and that only applies to 1 or 2 of the songs, really. The purpose of them is obviously just to move the plot along in unique ways and to be funny and entertaining. Not to be songs you'd actually want to bump in the car, although some of them you absolutely could. Which leads me into songs like A Chinese Lesson and Blainerific. I straight up just like them because they're funny scenes and sequences, and Blainerific is genuinely funny, and A Chinese Lesson is so cringy and awkward that I kind of love it in an ironic way. And there are songs I don't like, though, like Verses or Shearing Sheep, mainly because they sound awful to me. Well, they're also not that funny. I'm about to be shady for a second, but the people who are like, OMG, this World Tour song is so good, I'm like, some of them are definitely catchy, but they were definitely trying to make most of the songs just funny or plot relevant and not like musical masterpieces or even trying to sound good. So for that reason, I feel like they get taken too seriously. I'm not sure if this would be unpopular per se, but I'm basically coming for throats with this one, so I included it. At least most of us can agree on the songs being a nice inclusion to World Tour. I'm not sure if I've ever seen a World Tour song hater in general, so at least we have that. Alright, now I have to record this again because it got deleted somehow, but it's the final opinion, alright. So, final and fifth opinion is about Lashana from Action. I honestly think that Lashana would be the best Action finalist / winner, in parentheses, not Lindsay or Harold. Lashana is a pretty popular character, but I feel like most people want Harold or Lindsay to win Action, And my opinion on this has been, on Lashana winning, has been elevated ever since I watched it again recently. But for the longest time, I considered Harold and Lindsay as the best possible action finalists, or at least thought that one of them should have won and been in the finale. But based on how the season was written out, I sadly think that on our most recent viewing, Lindsay kind of disappointed me, since besides a select few episodes where her getting more confident or being independent of Heather plot is pushed to the forefront, she actually doesn't get that much focus to most of the episodes and is kind of a background character. So I definitely think her plotline could have been written better and been more consistent, which leads me into Lashana. Lashana's spa arc, she literally gets exposed for different reasons twice, but they both have to do with the spa trip, and I really like this whole plotline since it fits in with her established character pretty well in my opinion, while still bringing in some conflict to have her at odds with the other contestants and bring in some good drama, and it allows her to have a bit more depth as a character by allowing her to be more flawed. And honestly, maybe it's a weakness for these types of stories, but it's pretty similar to Millie, where she's portrayed as a flawed hero who still redeems herself, since Duncan and Harold kind of forgive her for that. And because the storyline is so well constructed, in my opinion, it's a shame they couldn't extend it until the end and have her as a finalist, especially because she's very relevant in this season and usually pretty good at challenges. And I feel like the season is instantly missing something as soon as she gets eliminated, which is another reason. But her storyline is kind of ended by the time she gets eliminated, but they definitely could have had her as a formidable rival to Courtney and maybe try to gain back Lindsay and Beth's favor, which would give her purpose to be there. She should probably also be like, okay, maybe I shouldn't have shit-talked them, like, maybe I shouldn't have done that. Although, to be fair, she did kind of have a point with most of them, honestly. She did have a point, but she did have a point. Not only that, but you know how Beth is someone in the action finale where she answers the questions about the contestants correctly because apparently she knows so much about them, even though it was kind of out of nowhere and we never saw that on screen until then. But, well, they could do something similar with Lashana if they developed it a bit more, where she knows all of this, all of the answers, because she's into gossiping about the contestants, but portrayed as a good thing this time instead of a negative, where the eliminated contestants are actually quite flattered that she remembers so much about them, and have Lashana be like, well, yeah, it's because I care about them, like, it's because I care about you guys. And maybe that would be a bit cheesy, but I could imagine something like that and be a good plotline to redeem her, and, you know, something like that. But I'm hoping that with my argument this becomes convincing, because I would really have loved to see Duncan and Lashana face off in the finale. I think that would have been straight fire, since they're both strong competitors. And obviously, in my ideal world, Duncan would be better written in action, but I actually prefer this final two than any final two to do with Harold and Lindsay, since I think those two could have satisfying conclusions to their stories, even without winning, but that's kind of subjective, sorry. I can't talk right now. This is the last time I'm recording, so I'm kind of, tipsy. Not tipsy. I don't know what I'm saying. But, also, when it comes to Lindsay's plot in action, I don't actually think it's necessarily as good as some people say it is, so I will save that for a potential part 2, so be on the lookout for that. But, yeah, in my opinion, Lashana should have won action. Alright guys, this is the end of the video, and I'm just going to say an early sorry to the the sound mixing and the editing in this video, because it is not good, but, you know, when you subscribe, this is what you signed up for, so I hope you know that. But, I just want to say thank you to everyone who subscribed recently as well. You guys rock, like, especially because my video went so viral, like, I was not expecting that. I'm pretty sure it's the most viewed Take the Crown video, and I'm like, yes, my master plan worked, and now you are just living in my world, truthfully. Feel free to discuss in the comment section below about my unpopular opinions, and make sure to like the video, because it really helps growing channels like mine. But make sure to let me know if you want a part 2 of this video, because I definitely have some ideas saved up, and I will also be trying to upload the top 20 total drama episodes video sometime in the next 2 weeks, so hopefully that works out and you guys can look forward to that. But go ahead and look forward to future videos, and